In this video I'm going to analyse the jazz standard Take the A Train, delve into what's going on with the chords harmonically and what scales and arpeggios you can use to craft a solo over the changes. I've got 5 parts to this lesson. The first being we're going to go through a bit of the background to the song, then chords, suggested ways to play those chords, then what's going on with the harmony in terms of Roman numerals. Fourth thing we're going to look at is what scales and arpeggios you can use to solo with over this tune. And lastly, the essential Duke Ellington ending that you need to finish this tune off with. Before I get into some ideas on how to play over this tune, here's me playing over once through the changes. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. This song is right out of the swing era from 1939. It's synonymous with Duke Ellington and his band, but it was actually written by Billy Strayhorn and not Duke Ellington. And it's from, as I said, 1939, and I think it was a time when Strayhorn and Ellington started to work together. The rumour goes that the title was in reference to when Ellington gave Strayhorn directions to get to the house. One of the instructions was take the A train, I think, to Harlem, so taking the subway in New York. Now, check out instrumental versions, check out the Duke Ellington version, and definitely check out I think Ella Fitzgerald's vocal version is pretty awesome too, but there's obviously tons of versions of this very popular swing standard. So let's take a look at the chords to this tune. So this is a 32 bar standard in AABA form. Each section has 8 bars, so you've got two lots of 8, AA, and the B section 8 bars, and then back to the A section for another 8 bars. So it's important to establish that first. That's your most common form in the swing era. Let's take a look at the chords for the A section. I'll put the chord shapes across the screen. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. C6, D7 flat 5, D minus 7, G7, back to C6, D minus 7, G7, C6 is second time through, D7 flat 5, D minus 7, G7, C6, then G minus 7, C7. So that's the A section. So I'll go through that slowly. So we've got C6 is our first chord. So that's fret 8 on the E string, fret 7 on the D string, and then fret 9 on the G string. Then we move to a very tasty chord, D7 flat 5, which is fret 10 on the E string, fret 10 on the D string, fret 11 on the G string, and fret 9 on the B, with the flat 5 on the B string. D minus 7, which is fret 10 on the E, nothing on the A, and then 10, 10, 10 on D, G, B. And then G7, which is fret 10 on the A string, fret 9 on the B string, and fret 10 on the G string. Back to C6. So you've got C6, D7 flat 5, D minor 7, G7, C6, D minor 7, G7. We're then back at the start for the next A section, back to C6, D7 flat 5, D minor 7, G7, C6. Now we want G minor 7, C7 there, which is going to take us to the B section. So that's the A section, so that's 16 bars. And just notice that the ending is different for the first and the second A section. Those last 2 chords, G minor 7 and C7, the G minor 7 voicing I was using there is fret 10 on the A string, fret 10 on the G string, and fret 11 on the B string. The C7 voicing I was using was fret 8 on the E, fret 8 on the D, and then fret 9 on the G. Notice they're both 4-note chords, so they're you know, root 3rd, 5th and 7th, but we're omitting the 5th in both instances. So the B section goes something like this: 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. F major 7 for 4 bars. Long time to stay on a chord. D7 for 2 bars. D minor 7, then G7, then G flat 9, and then we're back to the 3rd A section. So slowly, that is F major 7 for 4 bars. So that's your typical major 7 bar chord shape there. We've got fret 10 on the A string, fret 10 on the D, fret 9 on the G, fret 10 on the B, and then fret 8 on the E string at the bottom. So 4 bars of that, and then D7, not D7 flat 5 this time. Got fret 10 on the E string, fret 10 on the D string, fret 11 on the G. And then we're going to go D minor, same voicing, D minor 7, same voicing as earlier. G7, the same voicing as earlier, for 2 beats, and then 2 beats on a flat 9, G7 flat 9, because that's the melody note at that point. And it really does push us back to the C6 for the start of the next A section. That G7 flat 9 is the standard voicing. So I've got fret 10 on the A, fret 9 on the D, fret 10 on the G, and fret 9 on the B string. We're then back to the final A section. So C6, D7 flat 5, 2 bars, D minor 7, G7, C6, D minor, G7 to start again. So that's the chords to this tune. Now let's take a look at the harmony, what's going on, because before you start to play over a song like this, you need to understand how the chords relate to each other, and if they don't relate to each other, because that's going to affect what scales and arpeggios you can use over these chords. If you were to look this song up in the real book or in sheet music, it would have no sharps or flats in the key signature, meaning the key of C major. In C major, we'd expect to find the following chords if we harmonise the scale in sevenths. We'd expect to find C major 7, D minor 7, E minor 7, F major 7, G7, A minor 7, B minor 7 flat 5, and then back to C major 7. So if we were to compare the chords in this tune to what chords we should get in the key of C, so out of those chords we've got C6 is in key, D7 flat 5 is out of key, D minor 7 is the 2, G7 is the 5, back to C, which is 1. We'll do that all again. So C6, 1 chord, D7 flat 5 out of key, D minor 7 2, G7 5, C6 chord 1. Then the G minor 7, C7, 2 chords out of key. So let's look at those out of key chords. So the D7 flat 5, which is what we classify as an altered dominant chord. So rather than just a D7, it's got an alteration, which in this instance is the flat 5. So instead of an A, you know, you get in a D7, we've got an A flat 5. Now this chord is a secondary dominant. We call it a secondary dominant because it's a dominant 7th, and it's a secondary dominant because the primary dominant in this key is G7. So if you get any other dominant 7th chord other than G7 in the key of C, we would classify it as a secondary dominant. It's replacing D minor 7 here, and we get D7 flat 5, and that is because of the melody. If you check out the melody, it uses that flat 5 note. Then instead we've got the 2, D minor 7, the 5, and then back to the 1. At the end of the second A section we've got that G minor 7 to C7, which are both out of key, but anywhere you get a minor 7 to dominant 7th that moves in fourths, like G to C, it's a 2-5, and this is a 2-5 of F. So Strayhorn has used those 2 chords to segue into the B section. Now, very common device in music is to, when we change to another section in the song, is to use a subdominant chord. Now, chords 2 and 4 are subdominants, and if we went back to the harmonised scale, chord 4 was F, or F major 7. Those subdominant chords kind of set you to go somewhere else. They set the tune up for a different feel. So the G minor 7 is a 2-5-1 to F major 7. The The C7, going back to what we were talking about a second ago, is also another secondary dominant. It's the dominant of F. So the second time through the A, we get a nice transition into that 4 chord, the F major 7. C6. So coming up here, then we're on chord 4. We get D7 again, which is out of key, and then we get D minor 7, G7, which is the 5 chord, and then an alteration of the 5 chord, the flat 9, which gives us a nice drop down to C6. That works really well because the flat 9 is a flat or a G sharp, and so that will resolve down to G, which is the 5th of the C6 chord. Hopefully that makes sense. So you get nice resolution there. So we've got 2 camps of in-key chords and out-of-key chords. The in-key chords in this instance are C6, D minor 7, F major 7 and G7. The out-of-key chords being D7 flat 5, D7, G minor 7 and C7. So it's these chords, the out-of-key chords, which are going to have to be treated a little bit differently when we solo over those changes. Let's move on to what scales and arpeggios you could use over this tune. If you were new to playing jazz, then the simplest approach would be to use the C major scale over every chord which is in key. So over the C6, over the D minor 7, the G7 and the F major 7. That scale will work over all of those. So that blanket approach will work, but you'll just have to treat the out of key chords, the D7 flat 5, the D7 and the G minor 7 and the C7 carefully. Use C major 7, you can also use the associated pentatonic, so you could use A minor pentatonic. I use that a bit in my improvisation. If you can use A minor pentatonic, you can also use C major pentatonic, as they are the same set of notes. Now, just taking that blanket approach with one scale is quite straightforward. Just words of warning, as the chords change, you still want to be able to pick out the notes of the chord as they change. So say for instance, if you're over the C6, you want to pick out C, E, G, A, because that's the chord tones. But when you say hit the F major 7, you'd want to pick out F, A, C, E. You know, and it is about that. You might have a scale which fits over several chords, but you still want to try to pick out the chord tones, certainly to begin with. So that would be my simple approach, and then over those more tricky chords, maybe just arpeggios. But let's go through with what scales you could use for every chord if you wanted to think like that. So, first off, that C6. We would be using the C major scale, or C Ionian would work over that chord. So like 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's going to sound fine. In that we've got C, the root, D the major 2nd, E the major 3rd, F the perfect 4th, G the perfect 5th, A major 6, B major 7 and C back to the root. So C, E, G, A are our chord tones, root, 3rd, 5th, 6th. For that second chord, that juicy D7 flat 5, we need an appropriately odd sounding scale for it. We also must have a scale that has that flat 5 in it, otherwise we will miss that note and we won't get the character and the essence of the tune. So 2 scales I would use here would be the whole tone. So the whole tone scale over that chord would sound like this: 1, 2, 3, 4. I was definitely digging into this scale a little bit when that chord came up when I played over the changes. So the whole tone scale is as it says, so it's a scale which every interval is a whole tone. So it goes D, the root, E, a major 2nd or 9th, F sharp, a major 3rd, G sharp or A flat, that's the flat 5, A sharp or B flat, that's the sharp 5, and then C, that's our flat 7, and then back to D. Oh. It's got quite an outside sound which we need for that chord. Another scale you could use other than the whole tone that has that flat 5 in is the altered scale. A bit harder to get under your fingers. It sounds like so over the 1, 2, 3, 4. Without getting too bogged down, that is the 7th mode of E flat melodic minor, D altered. Now it is the scale for altered dominant chords like a D7 flat 5. So in this scale you've got D the root, E flat, flat 9, F a sharp 9 or minor third, F sharp major third, G sharp or A flat the flat 5, A sharp the sharp 5, and then C our flat 7 back to D. It's one of those that's quite hard to get into your fingers and it can be hard to create melodies with, but it will work certainly over that particular chord in the song. The next two chords is the D minor 7 to G7. Now you can use D Dorian, so the second mode of D minor 7s over the D minor 7 chord, and then G mixed Lydian over the G7 chord, but obviously both of those are just a C major scale shifted up. So D Dorian being D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, and then G mixed Lydian being G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So it's the same set of notes. So you know what, you could just use Dorian, think of it like that, or mixed Lydian over both chords. It will work, but again, you want to pick out the chord tones as you move. The 2 and the 5 are so intrinsically linked that you can just think of one scale over those, either say D Dorian or G mixed Lydian. The D Dorian sounds like this over the D minor 7. 1, 2, 3, 4. What we got is D, E, D, the root, E major second, F minor third, G perfect 4th, A perfect 5th, B we've got the major 6th there, C flat 7, D the root. For G mixed Lydian we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Got G our root, A the major second, B the major third, C a perfect 4th, D a perfect 5th, E the 6th, F the flat 7, and G back to the root. So there you could get D Dorian, G mixed Lydian, back to C. Dorian and mixed Lydian are always your basic scales for the 2-5. And at the end of that B section, when we've got the G minor 7 C section, G minor 7 C7 just before the B section, that's another instance where you could use, you know, G Dorian and then C mixed Lydian. So G Dorian being, C mixed Lydian being. But it happens quite quickly, so I would probably just go with the C mixed Lydian or a C7 arpeggio. So C mixed Lydian being C, D, E, F, G, A, B flat, C. C mixed Lydian being the F major scale but played from C to C because it's the 5th mode of the F major scale. The B section, where we move to that F major 7, F is the 4th chord and the 4th mode of the major scale is F Ionian. Now again, that is still the C major scale, but it's the C major scale played from F to F, which sounds like this against the F major 7. 1, 2, 3, 4. So yes, it is different to the C major scale, and it's because the intervals are different. And what we have is F the root, G the 2nd or 9th, A major 3rd. Now this is the note of character, the important note. Sharp 4, B, C 5th, perfect 5th, D the 6th, E the major 7, F the root. So it's that B which is the character note there over that F major 7 chord. You could also use F major pentatonic or D minor pentatonic. D7 is our next chord. So easy choice for any dominant 7th chord that's not altered is just mixed Lydian. So we could use D mixed Lydian. Now to work that out you need to know what key D is the 5th of. So D is the 5th of G. So we want D mixed Lydian, which is a G scale played from, G major scale played from D to D. So D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D. At the end of that B section we get another 2-5, D minor 7, G7, albeit with the flat 5. So again we could treat that the same as earlier. If you really want to bring out the tension on that G7, then you could use G altered or just add in that flat 9 over it. Moving on to the arpeggios that you could use over these chords. For C6 we could use a C6 arpeggio, so it'd sound like this: 1, 2, 3, 4. which will sound fine, which is C, E, G, A. Some of you may have already spotted that that is the same notes as an A minor 7 chord. So C6 is C, E, G, A, whereas an A minor 7 chord is A, C, E, G. So the same notes but starting at a different point. So you can use any of your A minor 7 arpeggios over the top of that C6, which would sound like this: 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, what's the benefit of that? For me, you wouldn't start on the root, well, potentially, so you're more likely to go for the note A, which is going to be a little bit more interesting than starting on C, the predictable root. Another option for that C6 chord, you could use E minor 7. So the rule to remember here is you can play a minor 7 arpeggio built off the third of the major chord that you're on. So E is the third of C, so we can use E minor 7 over the top. Now this would sound like this. So the notes we've got in this instance is E, G, B, D. Now, no C, so this is why I quite like this. So you get E, which is the third of C, G, which is the fifth of C, then you get B, which is a major 7, and then you get D, which is the ninth, which against our C6 chord sounds really sweet. So options for the C6 chord: C6, A minor 7 or E minor 7 arpeggios. And you can combine those. Say if I went A minor, I'll do an A minor 7, E minor 7, then finish on C, which would sound pretty cool over a C6 chord. Onto the D7 flat 5. Very simply, you could play a D7 flat 5 arpeggio, which is D, F sharp, A flat, C. You could also use this is the same set of notes, but you could also use an A7 flat 5 arpeggio. Those will both work. I also like using these whole tone, well, augmented arpeggios, so D, F sharp, A sharp. They sound cool. So that's just an augmented triad built off every note of the whole tone scale. So D augmented, E augmented, F sharp augmented, A flat augmented, B flat augmented, C augmented, D augmented. Sounds pretty out there. We can hit the D minor 7 with a couple of things. So obviously just a D minor 7 arpeggio. So D, F, A, C. One I really like is an F major 7 arpeggio over it, which will sound like this: 1, 2, 3, 4. So an F major 7 will work over that because it contains the notes F, A, C, E, which contains 3 notes for D minor 7 chord. So the F is the third of D, the A is the fifth, C is the 7th, the E is the 9th, which makes it sound pretty interesting, I think, because the 9th sounds nice over that D minor 7 chord. Onto the G7, we could use a G7 arpeggio, so G, B, D, F. We could use B minor 7 flat 5, which is B, D, F, A, which creates a rootless G9 sound. We could also use D flat 7, the tritone substitution, which works pretty well. So take that little 2-5-1, D minor 7, G7, C6. We could go with some arpeggio substitutions. We could go F major 7 over the D minor 7, and then we could go the tritone substitution, so D flat 7 over the G7, and then we could maybe go E minor, A minor over the C. So like this: 1, 2, 3, 4. That sort of thing. So you get some interesting tones with these arpeggio substitutions. The other remaining chords in the song got obviously G minor 7, C7, I like the B flat major 7 over the G minor 7, that creates a nice sound. Creates a ninth, the G minor 9 sound. Over the C7 I quite like E minor 7 flat 5. Creates a C9 sound without actually playing the C, so works pretty well. Onto that F major 7, we can obviously use an F major 7 arpeggio, so F, A, C, E. You could also use A minor 7, which is A, C, E, G, which is A is the 3rd of F, C is the 5th, E is the major 7, G is the 9th. Combine the two, which is nice. Another option would be D minor 7, which is D, F, A, C, which is D is the 6th of F, F is obviously the root, A is the 3rd and C is the 7th. So we've got F major 7, we had A minor 7 and D minor 7, just to play over the F. Now because there's 4 bars of that chord, we do need some ideas of how to play over it. So you know, you can alternate between those. Some of the things I think I was doing on my improv was triad pairs, so I went F major to G major, I think, which will work, and then back, so like F, G, F. Cool thing you can do also is go F to B flat minor, so it's like, if you imagine F is a 1 chord, then a common thing in music is to make the 4 chord in that key go minor, so instead of going like F to B flat major, you go F to B flat minor. So you could have like that sort of thing. So over 1, 2, 3, 4. And you get that outside sound by moving to that B flat minor. And the same with the going to the G really. So here's F, G, B flat minor, F. Those ideas are great for when you've got long stretches of chords and you want to create interest. If I just played F, A, C, E, the chord tones, all the Lydian scale, oh sorry, there's not enough tension there to create interest, so sometimes you have to superimpose other chords on the top to make things a little bit more interesting. Now hopefully you followed my ramblings there as to some ideas on chords you can do. I'm really into the idea of arpeggio substitutions to create more interesting sounds. You can get into that old argument about chord scale theory, about whether that whole thinking of different scales all the time or thinking chord tones is more easier or more difficult. I kind of sit between the two. I think when you're starting, probably the chord tone approach is easier. I feel you'd miss something if you didn't have the scales sitting with it as well. So, final thing for today is the classic Ellington ending. So I did this at the end of my little solo over this, and it's like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, and then you end on a, I think I ended on a C chord with the flat 5, but you can end on a C major 7, C6 9. So it starts on the root C, then goes to the E, the 3rd, then walks up F, F sharp, G, A, B, C. So it's a C major scale, but it's got the F sharp, I don't know. And then just finish on a C chord of some description. Little gap usually after before the C chord, so like you can move it around. That sort of thing. So that's a classic ending, referred to as the Ellington ending by a lot of people. And at the end of the last A section, it would come in replacement of the C6. So you go D minor, G7, then ending 1. That sort of thing. If you enjoyed learning about how to play over that tune, then why not check out my video I did last month on how to play over Honeysuckle Rose. I'll put the video on the screen. I release jazz guitar lessons every Wednesday. If you'd like to subscribe, then click up here. If you've got any questions, anything not clear, anything you want me to explain, then just leave a comment below.